The Empire had ruled the Andromeda sector for 12,000 years. Their civilization stretched across 900 worlds, and their military had never known defeat. Emperor, the Magnificent, sat upon his throne made of crystallized starlight, believing himself to be the most powerful being in the known universe. He had conquered 37 species, enslaved billions, and turned entire planets into mining operations for his growing empire. No race had ever successfully resisted him, and none ever would. This was the absolute truth that every child learned from birth. Humans arrived in the Andromeda sector quietly. They came in small colony ships, seeking new homes after Earth became overcrowded. They found a small blue planet called New Eden on the outer edges of space. The planet was considered worthless by the Empire because it lacked the rare minerals they valued. So the humans settled there, built their homes, planted their crops, and raised their children. For 50 years, the colony of New Eden grew peacefully. 200,000 humans lived there, building schools, hospitals, and communities. They were farmers, teachers, doctors, and dreamers who wanted nothing more than a quiet life among the stars. Emperor first learned about humans when his scouts reported the unauthorized settlement. His advisors told him that humans were a young species, barely capable of interstellar travel. They had no significant military, no advanced weapons, and no experience in galactic warfare. The Emperor's military council dismissed them as primitives who posed no threat whatsoever. Some advisors suggested simply ignoring them since the planet had no strategic value. But the Emperor saw an opportunity. A new species meant new slaves for his mining operations, and their unauthorized settlement was an insult to his authority. The Emperor sent a single message to New Eden. The humans had 30 days to surrender their colony and submit to rule or face complete destruction. The message was clear and final. There would be no negotiation and no mercy for those who refused. The humans responded by asking for a diplomatic meeting to discuss peaceful coexistence. They offered trade agreements, cultural exchange, and friendship. Emperor found their response amusing. He had never negotiated with lesser species, and he certainly would not start with these primitive newcomers. When the 30 days ended, the Emperor sent his third fleet to New Eden. 12 massive warships descended upon the peaceful colony world. The humans had only 3 small defense ships, which were destroyed in the first 5 minutes of the attack. What followed was not a battle but a massacre. The ships bombarded every city, every town, and every village from orbit. They used plasma weapons that turned buildings into ash and people into nothing. The attack lasted 6 hours. When it ended, New Eden was a burning wasteland. 198,000 humans died that day, including 42,000 children. They took 2,000 survivors as slaves and left the planet as a warning to other species who might consider settling in their territory. Emperor celebrated the victory with a grand feast. His generals congratulated him on another successful show of strength. The conquest of New Eden was recorded in history as a minor border action, barely worth mentioning. The Emperor gave medals to his fleet commanders and promptly forgot about the entire matter. To him, it was just another day of maintaining imperial order. The humans were dealt with, and that was the end of it. But the Emperor had made a terrible mistake. He had studied the military capabilities of humans, their technology, their numbers, and their resources. What he had not studied was their nature. He did not understand what humans did when their families were murdered, their children burned, and their homes destroyed. He did not know about the fury that slept inside the human heart, waiting to be awakened by injustice. Most importantly, he did not know that humans never forgot and never forgave certain crimes. The massacre of New Eden was exactly such a crime. News of the colony's destruction reached Earth 3 months later. The response was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The United Earth government declared a state of total war against the Empire. Every factory on Earth switched to military production. Every shipyard began building warships around the clock. Scientists who had spent their careers on peaceful research now worked on weapons development. Young men and women lined up by the millions to join the military. The entire human civilization transformed itself with a single purpose in mind. They would find and they would make them pay for every life they had taken. The humans spent 5 years preparing. They studied every piece of information they could find about the Empire. They analyzed weapons, shields, and ship designs. Human engineers developed new technologies specifically designed to counter defenses. They built a fleet of 3,000 warships, each one carrying weapons that had never existed before. Human generals planned their campaign with cold precision, identifying every weakness in the military structure. When the preparations were complete, the humans launched their attack without warning and without mercy. The first target was the military outpost at Prime. The garrison commander laughed when he saw the human fleet approaching. His station had defeated much larger forces before, but his laughter stopped when the first human missiles struck. The new weapons cut through shields like they were not even there. The station fell in 2 hours and the humans took no prisoners. They moved to the next target and the next and the next. Each victory was faster than the last as the humans learned their enemies, patterns, and weaknesses. Emperor received reports of the attacks with growing concern. He had expected the humans to eventually retaliate, perhaps send a few ships to die gloriously against his superior forces. Instead, they were systematically destroying his military infrastructure. He sent his second fleet to intercept them, a force of 50 warships that had never lost a battle. The humans destroyed all 50 ships in a single engagement without losing a single vessel of their own. The Emperor began to understand that he had made a serious error in judgment. The human advance continued without pause. They did not stop to celebrate victories or mourn losses. They did not seek diplomatic solutions or ask for surrender. They simply moved forward, destroying everything in their path that belonged to the military. Planets that surrendered peacefully were left untouched. Civilian populations were protected and even given food and medical supplies. But any military target was eliminated with extreme prejudice. The humans made a clear distinction between soldiers and civilians, showing mercy to one while showing none to the other. The Emperor assembled his entire war council to discuss the crisis. His advisors argued about strategies and tactics, but none of them could explain how a primitive species had become so powerful so quickly. They had watched humans for decades and seen nothing impressive. What they had failed to understand was that humans showed their true capabilities only when they had reason to fight. A peaceful human colony was nothing special. A human civilization seeking vengeance was something entirely different. 1 year into the war, the humans had conquered or destroyed 60% of the military. The Emperor's greatest generals had fallen one by one, their strategies useless against an enemy that adapted faster than they could plan. Worlds began surrendering without being asked, their populations terrified of what the humans might do if they resisted. The mighty empire that had stood for 12,000 years was crumbling before a species that had been dismissed as primitives just 6 years earlier. Emperor made one final attempt to end the war through diplomacy. He sent his most skilled ambassador to negotiate with the human commanders. The ambassador offered territory, resources, wealth beyond imagination, and formal apologies for the New Eden incident. The human admiral listened to everything the ambassador said, then asked a simple question. Could they bring back the 198,000 people they had murdered? Could they resurrect the 42,000 children who had burned in the plasma fires? The ambassador had no answer. The human admiral told him to leave and never return. The final battle took place above the itself. The Emperor watched from his palace as human ships filled the sky. His remaining forces fought bravely but hopelessly against the overwhelming human fleet. The battle lasted 3 days, and when it ended, the military no longer existed. Human soldiers landed on the planet and marched toward the imperial palace. They did not burn cities or harm civilians. They walked past terrified with their weapons lowered, heading straight for their one true target. Emperor waited on his throne as the human soldiers entered his chamber. He expected them to kill him quickly, perhaps with some primitive weapon. Instead, their commander stepped forward and began reading a document. It was a list of names, all 198,000 of them. Every human who had died on New Eden was named, along with their age, their occupation, and the names of their family members. The reading took hours, but the soldiers stood in silence until every name was spoken. Then the commander looked at the emperor and said that these people had been real, with hopes and dreams and futures that were stolen by arrogance. The humans did not execute the emperor. They considered it, but decided that death was too easy an ending for him. Instead, they put him on trial before a galactic court, where the evidence of his crimes was presented for the entire universe to see. He was sentenced to spend the rest of his life working in the memorial gardens of New Eden, tending the graves of those he had ordered killed. Every day for the next 40 years, until his death from old age, Emperor the Magnificent would plant flowers on the graves of his victims. It was a punishment designed not for vengeance but for remembrance. The empire was dissolved, its conquered peoples freed, and its military forever banned. Humans helped rebuild the worlds that had suffered under imperial rule, sharing their technology and resources with species that had once been slaves. The galaxy entered a new era of peace, but no one forgot the lesson that humans had taught. They were not a warlike people by nature. They preferred peace, trade, and friendship with their neighbors. But when their families were murdered and their children killed, they became something else entirely. They became an unstoppable force that would cross any distance, face any danger, and destroy any enemy to achieve justice. The massacre of New Eden was remembered forever as the moment when one arrogant ruler made the worst decision in galactic history. He had looked at human technology, human numbers, and human military strength, and he had seen weakness. What he had not seen was the fire that burned in the human spirit, the love that connected human families, and the terrible price that humans would pay to avenge their dead. By the time he understood these things, his empire was ash and his legacy was shame. The lesson was clear for any future tyrant who might consider attacking human worlds. Humanity did not start wars, but they always finished them.